he just showed me like notes on your iPhone.
All the time.
He says, Matt, he says, no one knows about this. Tell her I read those notes. Even though no one knows about this, he does. And you just got the chills. That was the proof that you needed to know that your dad is here today. The moment that I'm connecting with your husband, he just came over to you and I saw him hugging you from the other side. He tells me that you still have his clothes, and he still tells me when I'm connecting with him that sometimes you wear his clothes or put on clothes of his.
All the time.
He says to me, Matt, he says, you need to tell my wife that first of all, there's one thing that I'm here to do. He says, I'm apologizing for not being honest with her here in this world. He tells me that he went through this once before. He says, and you single-handedly helped him to fight this, to beat this, to get through this, and you thought that this phase of your life was done with him. You're like, oh my God, I get my husband back. I get to go, because souls will tell me their whole life story. And your husband showed me about him having this addiction when you first met here in this world. And he shows me when I'm connecting with him that all of a sudden, it started to destroy your relationship and your life with one another. And he says to me, Matt, he says, my wife didn't leave me. He says, she didn't give up on me. He said, she stuck by my side and she worked through this with me every single day. Do you know how much I love her? Do you know how much I love her? That's what he keeps telling me. And he says to me that you also protected him. You didn't tell everybody about what was going on with him and what was happening with him. He says, we handled this as a family, just with us. And your husband wants to thank you for that, because you got his life and you put it back together. And he says to me, Matt, I promised my wife that if anything were to come up in my life, if I were to get addicted again, if there was a problem that came up, if I was feeling any urge, I would tell her. And he says to me that he hid this from you. To the point where I see him in the car and going and like using in different places. I see him leaving the house and driving to different places and using.
Yes, very much.
Okay. He had stashes of drugs in the car, and I saw him going in the car and driving like to the next street over, driving to a different parking lot, driving to different places and using by himself. He says, that's when I knew I was doing something wrong. And what was tough is that the day that he died, he shows me you looking for him and trying to find him here in this world. And then all of a sudden you discovered his body. Yes. He says to me, Matt, he says, I wish that I could go and take away the pain that my wife still goes through, still to this day. He says, because the hardest thing is that not only did you have to see him in that way and find him in that way, he says, but all of a sudden you felt like everything that you knew about him was a lie from when he last had that problem. He says, Matt, let my wife know not to overthink this. He keeps saying to me, I screwed up. And this was something that I feel like he was only doing that past month because he's bringing that through when I'm connecting with him. He shows me that he hurt himself.
Yes.
He shows me that a friend of his or somebody gave him an old pill. He says, so I thought that I was just doing this as a crutch. He says, I just thought I was going to do this. It was going to help my pain. I was going to feel better. And then next thing you know, be okay. But unfortunately, he says, it changed everything that we worked so hard for. He says to me that he's so thankful for the way that you still love him, even after he died in this tragic way. He says, I want them to know that I am with them every day. He's also saying to me, happy birthday when I'm connecting with him.
It's going to be my brother's birthday in a second.
So the fact that your brother didn't come tonight, right?
Yeah.
No, it's his way of still recognizing him, letting him know that during that birthday he's going to be there, because he kept saying to me, I'm going to be there. He also keeps telling me about matching tattoos when I'm connecting with him.
Oh my God.
He says, talk about the tattoos.
She wanted to get his the same tattoo that he had on his arm, but we couldn't find a picture of it, so she got a different tattoo with his aviator glasses.
Know that one of the things that he says to me is this. He says, let her know she didn't ever need the tattoo to feel close to me. He's here and with you every single day. And you know what's really weird? He just showed me like notes on your iPhone.
All the time.
He says, Matt, he says, no one knows about this. Tell her I read those notes. So when you write those little notes to your dad and you say, Dad, do you really see me, Dad? You know, I'm hoping that he knows that you know, I love him, that I miss him, and you write all these notes to him. Even though no one knows about this, he does. And you just got the chills. That was the proof that you needed to know that your dad is here today. He says, Matt, you need to tell my daughter to stop thinking so far ahead, because you go through life every single day saying, how is it that I'm going to be able to live life again? How is I going to be able to do all these things without my dad? Know that one of the things is this. He is so happy to see the love that you have with one another. He says, because Matt, he says, there's one thing that I didn't want my death to do. The moment that he got to the other side, he instantly regretted it. And the one thing that he didn't want his death to do was to separate you as a family. I need to tell you one last thing. When I'm connecting with your husband and his passing, this was not just an overdose. He said to me, this was a mistake when I'm connecting with him. He did not know what he was taking when he had died. So that being said, he says to me, I didn't mean to do this. I didn't mean to do this. No, it's his way of letting you know that on the other side, he is fine. He is with you, and he is safe and at peace.